Welcome to the Bearded Boys Real Estate Show. Welcome, you guys. Hey, we've talked about last couple of weeks. We talked about you finding the deal, how to find the deal. Once you get the deal, once you've identified what a deal is, you've negotiated the deal. Now what? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Sean, we found that deal. We've negotiated the deal. What do we do now, man?
Well, you got to start with the paperwork.
Paperwork.
So you've got to become legal. So to break down this process, what you are doing in wholesaling is you are gaining equitable rights to the property. The only way that you honestly have equitable rights to a property is if you've got it inked on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've got to do is get a contract, fill that contract out, and there's some key points in that contract that you've got to make sure that you are covering yourself, in the process. We actually have a few contracts. Some of them I've gotten from my mentors and kind of doctored a little bit to fit our needs. We have assignment contracts. We have lease option contracts. And I think, Corey, what we might ought to do is upload those contracts to our Facebook page so that people can go look at them.
Yeah.
I want to start out by saying we are not attorneys. We are not able to give legal advice. And I don't want you guys to take what I say as gold, but take it as silver so that you can polish it into a nugget.
Okay. Oh, somebody write that down.
Okay. All right. So with all that said, you've negotiated the deal. You know it's a deal, and it is time to become an equitable stakeholder in your property, in this property. You get what they call a purchase contract, a real estate purchase contract. And in that contract, there's some legal jargon. Some of it, as a country boy, I honestly don't understand. But my attorney says, this is what you need in there. What I do need to know for sure is that there are a few key points. One, in that contract, it has to say the contract is assignable, okay? If it does not say that it's assignable, or you don't write that in, and come to find out, my closing attorney says something written on a contract is of higher value than what's printed on a contract. Did you know that, Corey?
I did not. Say that one more time. So
what is written on a contract, like if you ink it in on the paper, it garners more weight than what's printed on a contract.
How about that?
Okay. So, but with that said, in your contract, you want to make sure that that contract is assignable. So it has to say it's able to be assigned or in there. And I can kind of show you in ours when we download it to our Facebook page.
Pause right there for a second. What does assignable mean?
Okay. So what assignable means is you are taking that contract, not the house. You are not a realtor. You cannot, if you're not a realtor, I can't say you're not a realtor, but if you are not a realtor, you are not allowed to sell real estate. You have to be certified through the Real Estate Board Commission, whatever it's called, to be able to sell real estate or sell someone else's real estate or market somebody else's real estate. You're not doing that. You're selling a piece of paper, a contract. I don't have a piece of paper. I wish I'd hang it up. But you're selling a piece of paper. And so you are taking that piece of paper and you're selling that piece of paper to a buyer. You're assigning your contract over, your rights to that contract. And the buyer is buying what is on that piece of paper. So you have to make sure that your buyer understands what they're buying as well. That's all through building relationships. As you build relationships, your buyers will trust you more, and you can assign a contract and they don't even have to see the contract. But starting out, if you start building rapport, the buyers sometimes want to see the contract that they're buying. They may want to go look at the house, but you're assigning that contract. So you're assigning what's on that page. The next thing is you want purchase price on there. You want PPIN numbers. You want the date, the closing date. And then your signature, whether you have an LLC or sole proprietorship or however you're going to handle your business. You have that stuff in there as well. So PPIN numbers, if people don't know, you will have the address to the house, but you also want what they call a PPIN number. That is a location designated by the tax assessor in your county, okay, wherever that house is. Sometimes you can put the address, but it will not pull up based off the address or the seller's name. You can't find it because of all this crazy stuff that's happened in the title. Generally, though, if you can find a PPIN number, it tells you exactly where that property is. Okay.
How about that?
All right.
Yeah. How do you find the PPIN number? Because I've seen that a couple of times. You go to the tax assessor website.
You do. We have in Mississippi something that's called the Delta Computer Systems, and we can go there. That'll show a PPIN number. Sometimes, and it's very rare. I'm actually looking to see right now if you can find it on LandGlide. Sometimes LandGlide will have, no, it does not have PPIN number. It has parcel ID number. You can use a parcel ID number. If you don't have LandGlide, it's $10 a month. It's money well spent, and you can use a parcel number, and they'll be able to find it that way. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is Caroline on? Because she just texted me and said that how does she find the video?
Can't really tell. There are 4 people watching right now. I don't know who they are. It's on our Bearded Property Investors Facebook page. But I can't tell who else is watching.
Okay.
Let me go to our property page. It may tell me. Yeah.
I'm just trying to help her out because she's wanting to watch it.
You educating them up, man. You talking about gold and silver and polish and turning into nuggets, you know?
Yeah, she's on. So good deal. All right. So, so going back to that, so you want that information on that contract because there's a couple of things. When you take that contract to your closing attorney is going to want to be able to find it as well, and that helps them. You're facilitating, and it only takes you a little bit longer anyway to find that information, and it's very good information to start understanding because even when you start buying properties, if that's your intention, you're going to want that.
Yeah.
So going back to the contract, once you get that contract and you fill out the documentation on that contract and you come to a negotiation potentially as a terms portion on that contract, you want to write in there if you negotiated with that seller some things. All right, let's say you go and they've got a 1968 Corvette sitting in there and you've negotiated that as part of the deal. Well, by golly, I want that in there. So I write it in the terms. 1968 Corvette, serial number, blah, 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 goes with the property.
And as you go forward, there's been some new folks that have hopped on. And if you didn't catch it in the beginning, Sean was saying that according to his attorney there, that whatever is written in, actually written into the contract has more weight to what is typed in. So anyway.
Yeah. So you write in that information, the Corvette, you negotiated the Corvette. All right. Now you have it signed. They've signed it. They've agreed to it. You've signed it. You've agreed to it. And, you know some buyers. You already potentially is kind of hinted a little bit to some buyers to say, hey, I've got this property under contract, and if you're interested in it, let's go look. Now, through that process, you need to kind of coach the sellers. You need to let them understand in that negotiation part of it that you are an investor. And let's recap from the beginning, from the first video. You are an investor. You're just not potentially not a monetarily investor. You are a time investor. You're investing your time. That's still an investor. So you're not misrepresenting yourself. You are an investor. You're just investing time. Okay. You say, listen, I've got other investors that I work with. Some of them come and bring the funds to close the deal. You're warming them up to the situation of having other people coming in to look at the property. And so you've gotten them kind of accustomed to understand that, look, other people are going to come in to look at the property. Some of them want to inspect the property. Some of them want to do whatever, appraise the property, however, whatever they need to do. And so you've gotten them up. So the investor comes and they look at the property and they say, hey, I want to buy it. I had no idea the first deal I did, I want to buy it. What am I going to do? I started searching, trying to figure it out. And luckily I had mentors to kind of coach me, kind of guide me along after that. But what you do is you take another contract. It's called an assignment contract. It's very simple. In the state of Mississippi, it's a one-page contract. It's not this crazy long, elaborate contract. It is a simple one-page contract. And all it basically says is buyer and seller. So you and the buyer are on there. It has basic information that you're not liable for anything in the property, because ultimately you only know what your eyes and your feet have felt, right? You don't know the ins and outs. You don't know if this property's had a major chemical spill from 1968. So you don't want to be held liable for that. Yeah. So in that assignment contract, you know that some of that information is in there, but you're not liable for anything associated with that house. That and then you have the address, and then there's a place in there where you can write it in. I am assigning this contract minus the 68 Corvette that I want to take home and stick in my garage, right? So you write that stuff into the contract. Your negotiation with the seller, you're the buyer, what you've negotiated the sale price of the contract to be. So if you've negotiated a $15,000 spread or a $4,000 spread or whatever that spread may be, that is what you're selling your contract for. You're assigning your contract for X amount of dollars, minus the Corvette.
Minus the Corvette. Because you got to keep the Corvette.
I keep the Corvette.
Got to keep the Corvette.
Okay. And then for me and you guys, as you build relationships, it changes a little bit. Okay. Some people that coach say hard knuckle, it is $1,000, $2,000 earnest money, non-refundable every time, no ifs, ands, or buts. Yes and no. If you've got somebody that you've sold 30 houses to, and you guys communicate and you say, hey man, it's $1,000 earnest money. Okay, I'll get you a check in a couple of days. And, and then it rocks on a little bit and he forgets because he's busy just like we are. And he doesn't bring it till it's at the closing table. If it's written into the contract, he's still liable for it, right? At closing, he's already agreed to it. I kind of let that rock a little bit. They've become friends. You can trust them. But if you don't know people, put in there, it's in the contract, non-refundable earnest money. You write that down. You get a check from them. Okay. You take that check, you deposit it with the escrow account. You don't take the check and put it in your pocket. Okay. If you take that check and don't deposit it with the escrow account, it's kind of a gray area, but basically they say your transaction is not valid. And he can actually walk, right, if he wanted to. And he could walk anyway when you keep the earnest money, but it's just better to take that money and deposit it with your title attorney. The same thing with the contract. When you're writing your contract up from buying the property from the seller in the earnest money, all right? My title attorney has slapped my hand because I always negotiate a $10 earnest money. Well, come on, he says, Sean, You don't ever deposit your $10 with me. Why are you even putting $10 on the contract? Don't even do earnest money. Duh. So I don't even, me personally, unless the seller just absolutely has to have earnest money, I don't even use earnest money. I don't even do earnest money. Now, some people will tell you, and I know some really good attorneys, one of them down in Hattiesburg, she will jump all over me and say, you've got to turn in earnest money. So my best advice to you is, if you're going to negotiate earnest money, negotiate it as cheap as you can, $10, $100, whatever. But go take that money and deposit it with a title attorney.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sean, I'm listening to you. In the last couple of weeks, we've talked about fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the fun stuff. We talked about finding some deals. And then we talked about negotiating some deals, and that was fun. And today doesn't sound like too much fun except for the Corvette, right? But this is a key part of wholesaling real estate. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can make or break right here. And curious to you, for me, if I'm new and I'm listening to this and I'm hearing all the things that I've got to remember and all those kind of things, like I'm never going to learn this, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm just curious, how difficult was it for you to learn it? Because you obviously didn't come out the womb learning that stuff, right? I mean, knowing it, you had to learn it.
Yeah.
How difficult was it for you to learn it? And how did you learn this process?
Sure. So I failed my way forward.
There you go.
I messed up, Cory. I messed up, and was lucky enough to find a title attorney to take me by my hand and show me. I made mistakes, and that's okay. You can make mistakes and still make money. You can make mistakes and still make deals happen. But I made mistakes. But I also, after my title attorney kind of took me by the hand and started teaching me, I also started asking people. I finally got some mentors that are just some phenomenal guys, Adam and Brent, and they started training me and showing me some ways too. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. Try to make your wheel smaller, your learning curve smaller, by all of the mistakes and potholes that other people have hit with theirs.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can learn from your own mistakes. You can learn from the mistakes of other people, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think is the key to this right here? So, I've heard you kind of talk about the different kinds of contracts, right? What do you think is the key takeaway if I'm listening to everything you've said? If there was one key takeaway, what would you say that is?
The key takeaway with contracts are make sure that what you put in the contract is what you're agreeing to on the sale. And then also make sure that when you are talking to buyers of that contract, you're talking to them about assigning your contract. You're assigning this contract. You're not selling the property. I've seen tons of people that get a property under contract and then they put it on Facebook and say, I've got this house for sale. And it's like, I cringe. I'm like, oh, if the real estate commission finds out that you're selling a house. Yeah. Oh, so that's the key takeaway that everybody needs to understand is you are gaining equitable rights to the property, but you are assigning a piece of paper.
Yeah. My 2 cents on that is if you don't feel comfortable with it or don't feel like you totally understand it, find you a team, right? Find, like what you said, Sean, an attorney that can hold you by the hand. Find you a mentor or somebody that can guide you along the path, but don't just not do anything, right? Yeah. Don't allow that be the reason that you don't pull the trigger and move forward, because we've all made the mistakes and our greatest lessons have come from those mistakes too, right? And you'll never go forward by not at least taking the step.
Yeah, and you're still, even with somebody holding your hand and guiding you, if you're honestly pushing to get a deal done and get something under contract and assign that contract, it doesn't matter how much you've learned, you're still going to make mistakes anyway. You are.
Yeah. So what else we need to talk to them about on contracts and making sure it's legal from the legal aspect of things? Anything else on
Yeah.
that?
And I'm going to be posting a YouTube video about this. I was actually recorded it on my way here, but you can assign in most states, or I know in Mississippi, you can assign a realtor's contract. Okay. So I got a property under contract. This is a real story. A realtor told me about a property, and I was like, man, that sounds like a good deal. So I was like, can I meet you? And she was like, yes. And I'm still green as the gourd. Okay. And so I rushed over there.
That means rookie for anybody that's not from Mississippi.
Okay.
He's a rookie.
And I rush over there and I meet the realtor, and I present myself in the best shape, best foot forward that I can, and we go through the property, and I say, I want to make an offer. And I make an offer, and the people accept. And I'm like, oh crap. Now I got to backpedal a little bit or figure this out. Luckily, at this point, I'd had my mentors, and I called them. It's like, Adam, I need your help. And what you do on a realtor contract is, by your name, you put and or assigns. And then when I signed it, I did the same thing. I don't know if you really need to or not, but I put and or assigns. What that does, again, is that's ink on paper, and it allowed me then to assign that contract. Okay. And then I scrambled because I didn't even know if I could sell this stinking thing. Called a buyer that I knew, and I was like, hey, you got this deal. Why don't you come look at it? He come over there and looked at it, But I figured out by just taking action that was possible in Mississippi. People might want to look into it a little bit, because I know some of the real estate commission things are changing, and you may not be able to do it in every state, but I do know you can do it here, and I would certainly look into it.
How about that? That's interesting. I didn't know that, and I don't think I'd even heard that story.
No, yeah, you probably hadn't.
That's good stuff. Okay, so who do we need on our team to make stuff like this happen?
Yeah.
So we need an attorney, but who else do we need?
You need a title attorney. You need you're going to have a buyer or some buyers, right? Yeah. You also are going to need, I don't know how it differs in different states. I know in the state of Mississippi, we have title attorneys. Other states, like closing firms, I don't know what it's called. Do you know what it's called, Cory?
I don't. Okay. You kind of paused on us there for just a half a second, but.
Okay. Well, in other states, there may be like companies that just close deals. They're not actual attorneys. They're just closers. I can't remember the name of it. But you want that attorney on your side. That's going to, you need that. You need your buyers. I think that's really it, besides people that are going to coach you through the situation at some point, whether it's YouTube University, it's Facebook, or somebody that's going to kind of lead you and guide you. You need somebody or something kind of coaching you through at some point, somehow, how to get the deals done.
Yeah. I'm going to pause right now just for a second and talk about coaching just for a second. But early on, you mentioned putting some of our contracts on Facebook, or uploading them. What we'll do is we'll upload those into the files section on our Facebook page. That way, if you want to kind of take a look at those, you can kind of glance through. These are the ones that we use. You'd probably need to modify to just for you, but we'll have those. And again, we are not attorneys, and but we want to kind of give you a blueprint for that. So, Sean, you've talked a whole lot about even in this call, but before you and I partnered, the impact that mentorship had on you in your life and really your business. And we've kind of talked about doing a mentor ship kind of coaching package, and I think we've come up with something. And I want to kind of talk about that just for half a second, if that's all good.
Yeah.
So one of the things Sean and I have come up with is what we're calling a challenge. It's a 6 days to 6 figures in wholesaling real estate challenge. So Sean, he first year doing wholesaling real estate, working a full-time job, 40 hours a week, being a full-time dad, full-time spouse, still on the side, built a 6-figure business in wholesaling real estate. And he's got 6 steps. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 6 days to go over those 6 steps. Each day, we're going to dive into one of those steps. But this is not a classroom style. This is not Sunday morning church where you just sit back and you are being fed, right? We're going to pour into you. We're going to feed you. But this is about action. That's why it's called a challenge. So there's going to be action steps. I don't think you've probably never gone through anything like this. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be 6 days, boom, 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 with action steps and homework to really set you up to take action. Because that's one of the things that we see a lot is people spend a lot of time on YouTube. People spend a lot of time on Google and educating themselves, but they have a hard time crossing that line into action. Well, we want to help you move into action. And so we're going to do a 6 days to 6 figures in wholesaling real estate challenge. And on the back of that, we plan to unveil our mentoring coaching from that. But I'm excited about the challenge. Sean, you got anything to add to on that challenge?
No, I mean, I want to say that there's, I'm not perfect, right? I mess up and I still make mistakes. Come on.
Sean, come on
now. So, and I say that to say that realistically, anybody that's willing to watch this or take a step can do it. Yeah. I fully believe that. So I'm really encouraged to even, be doing these Facebook Lives and just giving a little bit of information. But honestly, I just want to encourage everybody to do it. So that's all I got on that one.
Sean, I'm posting in here if anybody has any questions. I'd love to hear if they have any questions on any things we've talked about or before tonight or on contracts. But as I'm typing this up, you want to riff on anything or anything to add to what we talked about tonight?
Yeah, so to continue on with contracts, you do want to make sure when you get a contract, even if you take the contracts that we put in the files here, make sure that you go to somebody that can look over that for you. So attorney or whatever, let them go over that. Also, you're going to have to find a closing attorney, a title attorney that understands your process, because I found that it was a little bit difficult to find people in our area that even knew what wholesaling was. And I ended up training some of the attorneys before I found the right one on what wholesaling was. I had few that were telling me that it was illegal. And I was like, no, it's not. And, but some attorneys, they just don't know what wholesaling is. Real estate agents, a lot of them don't know what wholesaling is. They will find you somewhat of a threat sometimes. So make sure that you find you an attorney that can review the contract. You want an inspection period in there. Make sure that you have an inspection period. That inspection period is also your opportunity. If you can't assign the contract, that inspection period is your period to be able to kind of back out of that contract because you can't get the deal done. You've made a mistake. You've made a mistake on how bad the house was. You get it under contract and you got a smoking deal, and every buyer that comes around is like, dude, this thing's about to fall in. You made a big mistake. you didn't go through the inspection period well enough. They went through it for you and found that you have a big issue. And so you've got to go back to the seller and either renegotiate the contract because a buyer offered you 13 grand instead of 100 grand. So you have to go back to the seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I made a big boo-boo. I need to sit down. Can we talk? Because I found something, this foundation is bad.
Yeah.
But I still want to help you, so that's going back into the negotiating side, and try to renegotiate that contract to get it to where you can potentially sell it. That's your inspection period. The longer you can get that inspection period, the better, with the contingency of telling the seller, listen, this house, it's a little bit tougher than I thought it was going to be. And so I'm going to need 45 days or 60 days on this contract to close it, because I've got to make sure I do my due diligence on this one. And so the longer you can get that inspection period or closing date period, and the way our contract's written is inspection is all the way up to closing day, right, until we sign the papers. That gives you more opportunity to find somebody to be able to assign that contract to. I had one set of wholesalers that I was working with and helping them, and they put a inspection date on there of like, I don't know, I can't remember, it's either 15 or 20 days. And I was like, oh my gosh, just luckily I know enough buyers where I was able to flip that contract pretty fast for them, but it was tight. There's going to be some when you're working foreclosure lists that are going to be tight, and it's just the nature of the beast. But on your contract, try to extend out that contract closing date as long as you can.
There you go. Sorry, I pulled up our Facebook thing here, and it was talking on there. So Ricky said he doesn't feel threatened. He loves us, man. We love you, Ricky. Hey, I remember talking to you early on, Sean, and I remember you having struggles with some of the attorneys not understanding, real estate agents not understanding. But, as you've developed relationships and as we've developed relationships too, man, we can help realtors out, and they've been a good source for us as well. It's been a good working relationship too. So
yeah, the way I look at that is realtors to me are assets, and I want to be assets to them. I want to bring value. That's one key takeaway too tonight that it's great that you brought that up, is always, always, always bring value to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because if you can bring value to somebody else, they will also add value to you. It may not be monetarily, but they will add value if you bring value. But you can't be a leech. You can't mooch.
I like that. Don't be a leech. Sean, you spitting it tonight, man. You spitting it tonight. It's not gold. It's silver, but polish it off and it'll be a nugget. I like it. Yeah. Would you talk about some, what was the country slang you talked about earlier?
Green as a gourd, baby.
Yeah, green as gourd. There you go. Y'all ain't gonna hear that in any other real estate show. Come on now. Good stuff, John. Good stuff. Any last thoughts? Any last words or anything like that? Add to?
No. If anybody has any questions, please comment on our Facebook video either now or later. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and subscribe for us. Sorry, that was terrible. Shouldn't do that. But, if you have any questions, reach out to us on YouTube, reach out to us on Facebook. Man, I'd be glad and more than happy to help anybody through this process.
Yeah, we'd love to help you. People over profit. Hey, be looking for that 6-day challenge. It's going to be really good. Going to be very affordable, and you're going to get tons more value than what it's even worth, or whatever we're decided to charge on that. But it's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be talking about, Sean's going to be talking about the 6 steps, and I'm going to be doing some stuff on mindset, motivation, and leading yourself. So Appreciate you guys. Thanks for jumping in. Sean, you want to close us out there?
Y'all be safe. I'll be on your side any way I can. Just let me help you.
There you go. Y'all have a great night.